Alright, so this is a video I haven't made yet. First of all, my name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, a clothing company that is so much more than just a clothing company. We are called In The Image Clothing Company because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. So we discuss the body as it is, as it was before we came into this world and got altered. Our bodies have the potential to get altered through things that are flat when our hands are rounded and our feet are rounded with the arches that are in the feet naturally. And really the big thing is the clothing that we wear, and that's why we are a clothing company, even though we are centered around the body's natural function, because clothing is the only thing placed physically directly on our bodies at all times. So it's the only thing that has the potential to alter our bodies to that degree. There's nothing else really in life that we interact with to the degree that clothing interacts with us. There's a lot of noise over here today. I filmed another video about an hour and a half ago for In The Image Clothing Company, and there's just been quite a bit of noise today, but that's okay. We're just a very real, raw company being In The Image Clothing Company, so it's fine. The information is what's important, and that's still getting across as long as you can hear the words that I'm speaking. So we talk about the skeletal system of the body. We don't worry about the fat content or the muscle mass, because those things come and go. And even the musculature of the body, its only function is to pivot and hinge and move the skeletal system. So it really is about our foundation and having a natural position that the body just does naturally have, that we work out of from there and do everything from there. So I've had a couple prerequisites since before I even founded In The Image Clothing Company, just to allow the body to have a chance to operate naturally, and that is to lace your shoes with the technique that is In The Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique. You can find that where you find us. Our official domain is InTheImageClothingCompany.com, but anywhere that you can find us online, you can find us just searching up In The Image Clothing Company. That technique just includes tying the shoes evenly over toward the inside to get back that natural internal rotation in a modern 2024 where so many people are in a constant chronic until fixed state of external rotation rather than internal, which is where we would naturally dwell within as human beings until altered. So the shoelacing technique, paired with just removing all of the tags from the entirety of all the clothing you ever wear, stemming within the shoes and then up through everything. Tags cause unnatural gaps only in the locations where the tags are placed within clothing, and the body is natural, and tags are normally nowadays made out of synthetic man-made materials placed within clothing, pressing against our skin without us having a say in it. And so that's something that our bodies don't want to ever have to come in contact with, and in those cases they're being forced to. So those are the prerequisites. That is what In The Image Clothing Company is. And again, I am the founder. I lead out of example. I try my absolute best, being a sinful human, to discuss nothing but universal truths here at In The Image Clothing Company. Things that apply to every human, because the skeletal system is universal, unless yours is slightly different, and that's okay. We address things, deformities, surgeries, amputations, whatever it may be, if we need to and when we need to, but you're already working around those things in your own situation if that is your situation. And I've had things myself that are similar to those type of things that, you know, I understand. So yeah, what I do want to discuss, I've talked about many times, and I'll say it real quick, where clothing needs to sit on the universal human design, whether it's In The Image Clothing Company clothing that we have available when that comes. As of today's date, we don't have it available. When that comes, this will be the intent behind our designs, and everything that In The Image Clothing Company has shown through our videos and our free modifications that take nothing but a pair of scissors. That's what we are trying to get clothing that any of us have purchased to be able to do, which is sitting here, okay? This is how we allow the skeletal system to do its natural operations. Pairing things like the prerequisites and having no heels on our shoes. But pants need to sit entirely above the hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear, and the tops, the shoulder seams that are on tops of the shoulders, need to sit behind that little bone that's on the top of the shoulders, and then the edge seams of the shoulders should ideally be right at the very edges, like right there. And that's what this video actually is. is clothing needs to fit, okay? So our clothing will never have any kind of tags protruding from the inside, so you will never have to remove them, which is our prerequisites for other clothing that we've purchased. It will always be made out of 100% natural materials, allowing the body to mesh with nature, because the body is nature. And yeah, so I think I've made it apparent in just about every single video that I have made personally for In The Image Clothing Company that our clothing needs to fit us. And I have a video that I titled Why Oversized Clothing is Common, but well, for In The Image Clothing Company, right? That's where that video is, you can find. But I haven't made a distinct video saying, hey, clothing needs to fit. And I think it's, like I said, obvious at this point if you know In The Image Clothing Company at all, because that's what I always discuss. But what I do want to mention is, as I always say, speaking out of experience, for most of my life I wore oversized clothing, and I didn't really know the difference. I didn't know what it meant for clothing to fit necessarily, because also, as I talk about these chronic patternings that we get our bodies into, my shoulders were like down here always in external rotation, and that's just how I lived my life. I was also tying my shoes in ways that were not evenly over toward the inside, which is how they have to be tied, and they were laced in ways collapsing my arches, and I was doing all of the things that I'm showing how to stop doing through these videos for In The Image Clothing Company. And so when your shoulders are in such a terrible position, that's why my video for In The Image Clothing Company titled Natural Collarbone Angle is a really good video to see, because in this state of collapsed external rotation, the collarbones are very close to horizontal, and the natural angle, it's not like a spoiler for that video, go watch that video, it's wonderful. It'll give you a lot of great information about just the natural angle, but the natural angle of the collarbone really is elevated like this, like upward, closer to, I don't know the exact degree, so I'm not gonna say, but up higher, right, like this on an angle, because that way I actually did a video. The video I was just mentioning that I made earlier today is titled hold on, what is it titled? Anyway, if I think about it, I'll think about it. But the video I did earlier today, I discussed the shoulder needing to be in that natural position. As I've talked about so often, I have a video for In The Image Clothing Company titled Shoulders Naturally Sit Behind the Body. That's the video that I've gone into the most depth on the anatomy of the shoulders in. But when your shoulders are in such a poor state in this patterning that you're stuck in until fixed, you might not think that your clothing is oversized, and it could be an entire size too large for you. Everything that you are wearing, I'll use myself as an example because, like I say, I try to be the example, so I speak out of experience and I speak on truth. For so many years, I wore either extra larges or larges, and now I'm only taller and older than I was at those times, and I wear mediums. Medium is my size. So back then it was at least medium, if not smalls, when I was smaller, you know what I mean? In times when I was wearing larges, I could have comfortably fit in smalls. What I'm saying with that is my shoulders were like this, and I've discussed and I've shown that the lower your shoulders get, they actually kind of come out. And a lot of that is that collarbone. As it comes down, it goes from this nice upward position, because the collarbone stems from where your sternum is and goes up on top of your shoulder. That's actually what that little bone is, as far as I'm aware. When I discuss that little bone on top of the shoulder that the seams need to sit behind, that's actually your collarbone. That is. Because your collarbone goes all the way to there. Like is it like this long of a bone? So that's funny. I think I knew that as I've been saying it, but it's just so funny. I don't know, the body's so, as I say, the body's so simple when we see it as it is. It really is. So it's funny. Anyway, the point with that is the lower your shoulders like drop, which is just going into external rotation, they kind of get wider. So I talked a lot about that within my video that I mentioned, why oversized clothing is common. But yeah, so clothing has to sit where your body is going to work, not the current position it's in out of a patterning. But as I always discuss, like if we were barefooted in the grass, if we were out of modesty entirely clothless in the grass, no clothing on, how would the body operate if it had never been altered, like Adam and Eve type state, literally in the garden before they partook of the fruit and then were naked and then like realized they were naked because they had the knowledge from the tree's fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, right? Check out In the Image Clothing Company podcast, because we discussed the gospel of Jesus Christ in there, and I've discussed the story. It's actually in the first episode of the podcast titled The Launch. I discussed the story of the garden, the first two humans on earth, right? Adam and Eve. So when our bodies haven't been altered, our shoulders are naturally, well, just where mine are. And it's not about me, but it really is, again, I try my best to be the example of what I discuss here. And so that is how my body works, is natural. My shoulders are in their natural position. And up here, in a sense, just where they naturally would be, but it's such an elevated position over that dropped external that so many people are stuck in nowadays, that I was also stuck in for many years. So in their natural position, the seams they have to sit at the edges of the shoulders. When you look at people who are very, what we would consider like fit, you know, people who do go to the gym, and I talk about how I don't like gym exercises, meaning not my opinion about that, but for what they do to the body. I do not like gym exercises universally for the skeletal structure of the human body, because as I was also doing for so many years, people are coming out of a place of such a poor imbalance within the entire body, thinking that these very simple, weird planes of motion gym exercises are going to help their body, when really they're just further ingraining a incorrect position for the body's natural workings. That's not an opinion. So yeah, it's not. I know that sounds a little bit accusatious, a little bit bold, but that's what I always say. We discuss universal truths. I know that at certain people's current understandings, things that I'm talking about, being the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, being a company that discusses the body in its natural form, I know a lot of the things that we do discuss here seem foreign because of how out of touch so many people, including myself for so many years, was. But a lot of people are very out of touch with just natural, and it's not their fault, is the big key thing with that. So that's what we're doing, though. That's why we are the company that we are. That is the whole point, is to shine light on truth. So when people are wearing clothing that's oversized, man, this video is a very personal video, because I didn't start wearing clothing that actually fit me until this year. When I was a little kid, my clothing probably fit pretty well, but then as I got like a little bit older, you know, and then through the rest of my life up until about last year, I was just wearing clothing that was too big, much too big. And you know, you go get a job and they give you a uniform, and you just get like 1, 2, maybe 5 shirts for your uniform, you know, whatever they give you. And if you get it all in the same size, and you get it in a size that you've just been used to wearing, which is too large, now everything you're doing at that place of employment, you're doing within clothing that doesn't allow your body to actually do its only function, meaning the shoulders won't be in their only working position in a shirt that's too large, just because you're not going to like physically try to hold the shirt up constant. And I've discussed this so many times actually within In the Image Clothing Company videos. Bird calls over there. So when you just don't know where natural is, when we don't know where our natural center is on an earth with gravity that just pulls us straight from our center, from the sternum and the spine and the nose, when we don't know the natural position of the shoulders, which allows a natural position of the hand. When we don't know that we've been wearing things that are so much too large, then if you do put something on that actually fits you, because your body's in such a bad patterning, it's going to feel too small and uncomfortable at first. But it's so important. I mean, while you're sleeping, if you're wearing oversized clothing, you're not going to be able to breathe and you're not going to sleep well. And then that's going to cause you to feel like you need to use a pillow. I've discussed so often how using pillows is so unnatural because it takes your natural vertical, neutrally stacked with a very slight bend, natural body position, and it sticks your head forward and externally rotates your shoulders, your hips, your pelvis goes anterior, your arches in your feet, even though you're laying down, there should still be in their natural open hip position, internal rotation, but the arches in your feet collapse, your airway is totally closed off because the pillow's placing you here. But again, a larger shirt takes your shoulders with it, which puts your spine in an excess curve because of all the things I just discussed briefly, but I just have a lot of videos for In The Image Clothing Company on the anatomy of the body, where I go into the things that I just kind of brushed over there in depth. You can go find. But yeah, there's a lot to internal rotation is a video that I have that discusses a lot of that. Toddlers are the natural example, discusses a lot of what I just said there, things like that. But yeah, videos you can go find for In The Image Clothing Company that I personally have made. You can go find those, and I would recommend it for the sake of just learning the natural function of your own body, because we are universally designed the way that we work. So yeah, we need to wear clothing that fits. I mean, if I try to go to bed now, having my body be as close to natural as I have gotten it at today's date, if I try to go to sleep within a shirt that's too large, you'll sweat too much. It's hard to breathe, as I was discussing. You feel like you can't quite sleep in normal positions, and you're trying to like put things like blankets underneath you in certain spots and put more unnatural gaps between where your body naturally lies against itself to try to accommodate for what the clothing is altering within your body's natural workings. So clothing just has to fit. I mean, it has to. And it's not like you need to be more financially stable and go purchase more clothing. No, it's nothing about purchasing anything. If there's any kind of way you can get your hands on clothing that actually fits you, because at In The Image Clothing Company, we're very minimal, and we're always removing rather than adding. Maybe very, very, very rare cases we might have something we add, but we're almost always removing things, meaning it's not about going and getting 50 shirts that fit you because you realize now that you've been wearing oversized shirts. No, you need like 2 or 3 shirts. I mean, you just need what you need. Clothing just covers our bodies. We can get extremely minimal. We only need what we actually need. That's it. So we need stuff that fits, though. That's what we do need. I've talked about it many times, like third world countries, how I say like coming from, I live here and I am an American, but within the United States of America, there's so much misconception on what people actually need within third world countries. And people will send over these like hygiene kits with synthetic chemical toothpaste and stuff. And when these people get these things, they're like, what do I do with this? They don't want it, but then also they're like, how do I dispose of this? Because they're conscious of taking care of the earth as well as taking care of their own bodies, so much more than we are generally in this kind of country, to where they don't need that kind of stuff that people are sending over to them. They need clothing that fits. And I've discussed this before within videos for In The Image Clothing Company. I mean, that's, a lot of people are just very out of touch. I have been in my life as well. I'm not, I'm not putting myself apart from people as if I'm like better. I just do have a different understanding than most people do. That is true. What I'm saying is, people need clothing that fits. All people, no matter where you are, no matter how wealthy you are, or how like less well off you are, whatever term you want to put on like monetary value. What I mean is, a lot of times people with the most money are the ones that are wearing things that are damaging their bodies the most, because they can afford all these expensive designs and things that are actually just terrible for the body. The point being, we need to have things that fit. You're not going to be able to breathe, no matter how much, like that's the other thing as well, is it's very common nowadays for people to be having like classes that they go to, like yoga classes, breathwork classes, seminars, and all these things. And sure, whatever. I'm not telling people not to, but I mean, truth is truth. And you can think that you got to go like train your breath work all you want within an oversized shirt, and you will never breathe natural that way. It's experience. I used to just feel like I couldn't breathe for like a decade. Well, I was wearing too big of clothing. It just takes your collarbone angle and drops your shoulders like this. It closes off your rib cage. Your scapulas can't wrap around your rib cage like this in this nice internal rotation to expand your rib cage. Just the body only works how it does. So all these classes you want to go to, I'm not accusing, but it's just the truth, they're not going to help you breathe better if you are continuing to wear clothing that doesn't allow your body to work. That's just truth. So, In the Image Clothing Company isn't some kind of thing. It's, hey, this is just advice that's not like advice, but that is truth. We just speak on truth. I mean, you can watch this video and potentially have more be done within you through the knowledge you get and understanding in this than any kind of breathwork class you could go to and spend hundreds of dollars on, go multiple times to. And that's the goal. That's the intent behind In the Image Clothing Company, is to speak on truth so that people can know it. It's not about us. It's not about me as the founder. It's not about the company for the company's sake. It's about spreading universal truth. So, clothing has to fit. You're not going to be able to breathe if your clothing doesn't fit. You're not going to be able to continue to even stay awake throughout the day without feeling so physically fatigued, because your muscles are trying to hold your clothing up rather than just doing their natural function. So, I've said many times that human beings are so much more capable and have so much more energy and stamina and strength naturally than almost everybody nowadays is even anywhere used to having. And again, out of experience is where I am speaking from, because once I started wearing clothing that fit and doing the prerequisites to just allow, kind of like fine tune, if you will, I just have energy that I didn't have before. It's not some claim, it's not a sales pitch. There's nothing that I'm selling within this video. We don't even have clothing available as of today's date. It's just, so often people think that it's a sales pitch when somebody's telling them that something will give them more energy. I'm not in any way saying more than the natural amount. That's all I'm saying, is we're getting back to our naturally capable bodies by taking things away. Truth. I mean, that's it. So, yeah, I get nothing from you like believing my words in this video. I get nothing from that. I'm just speaking truth. So, it's just people are so quick to dismiss stuff that seems too simple, seems too easy, seems like a gimmick. You can believe whatever you want about it, but it's truth. So, anyway, the point is, clothing has to fit. Right now, my pant cuffs are not touching the tops of my feet. My sleeve cuffs are not touching my wrists. My shoulder seams are very close to right at the very edges of my shoulders. My pants are entirely above my hips so that they can move and open. They're already open while I'm standing. Completely open, posteriorly tucked, activated core constantly, naturally. I've talked about all this so much, walk out into the world and see humans wearing clothing that is oversized, as I was doing for so many years. Within my own household, within the family members that I live with, I see them wearing clothing that is oversized, as mine was for so many years. And I see them and hear them complaining about the pain that they are in. And then they'll go and get injections with random chemicals into their body, hoping that will do something to them. And they'll be popping pills and going to chiropractic visits and massages and all of these classes and seminars and trying to be on very specific diets and all of these random things to try to fix something that they are causing, even if it's unintentional on their part, by wearing clothing that does not fit them or that is altering their bodies. I mean, again, something that I was doing, I'm not accusing, but it's truth. And so I'll hit it, and I'll hit it, and I'll hit it hard. And I'll be sounding as accusatious as I sound, because it's truth. So, yeah. Alright. Anyway, clothing has to fit. No opinion, no fashion, no like, hey, be more proper of a human being. That's what I thought a lot of the time too. I thought people were trying to get me to be like a more upstanding young man type of thing, right? To wear clothing that fits you so you look more presentable. No, it's to allow your body to do its natural operations, or else it cannot. And that's it. So, we have to just do all that we can to have clothing that fits. That means in no way to go spend more money. I mean, money's just money. It comes and goes, just like I talk about the fat content and the muscle mass of the body comes and goes. That's how money is. It's just a man-made, made-up thing. Literally, it is. No matter what that sounds like, that's truth. So, the point is, I'll do a little bit of elaboration on that so I'm not just sounding like I'm making some claim. Money used to be just bricks of gold or silver. Then money was paper when they started printing paper. Then money was just a number on a screen. Now money can be whatever it wants to be or whatever you want it to be, because there's the internet and you can say that this thing has X amount of value. Money's just a representation of value. It's not a real thing. Literally, truthfully, undisputed, it's not. So that's why I say it's not about spending more money, but then it doesn't really matter either way. Anyway, the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. Check out In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Not an opinion of mine. So, the big thing though is, if you do have clothing that is too large, there's a lot you can do for free within that item of clothing without changing the items of clothing you do wear, as in getting more. Because I always talk about, or like I'm mentioning within this, where we remove things. And so to a degree, you can like cut things shorter. Now the seams at the shoulders are very, very big, and that's something that might take more of a sewing machine type of alteration to do. But to a degree, there's a lot of things that we can do for free within the things we already do own. Clothing just has to fit. So it's very common, very fashionable, quote unquote, to wear oversized clothing. Really all it's doing is damaging your body. That's it. And it is doing that, period, no matter what, if it is too large. So, okay. I'm gonna mention this, I say this like phrase a lot, where I can't tell you what to do, but because we are all universally designed, skeletal system wise, the way that the body actually functions, I can tell you what your body doesn't do, and I can tell you how to allow your body to do what it does do. Meaning the only thing that it does, the only operation that the body actually has, the only position that it actually works out of. I made a video one time for In the Image Clothing Company titled "The Body Only Has One Position," and I discussed that and I described it and I showed it in my own body out here on this field in the grass. So clothing has to fit. It has to. There's no say, there's no opinion. It has to. It's not about looking a certain way, but if you'd like to breathe, if you'd like to do anything, you have to have clothing that fits, or you'll feel like you want to stretch and do these things to try to get it to work. And we don't need to get our bodies to work, we need to allow them to work, because they're designed to do what they will do until altered. Yeah, we don't have to stretch, That's not a claim, that's not an opinion, that's not something that only applies to certain human beings. I used to stretch in the past. I just mentioned this within a lot of videos for In The Image Clothing Company. I used to stretch in the past, trying to get to normal, never in those times getting anywhere near there or what I thought normal meant or was, and now I never, literally never stretch, and my body just works amazingly, meaning compared to how it did in the past. It's not about me, but it just works how it is designed to work, because I'm not altering how it is designed to work. That's it. And everybody has, within their own situation, the availability to that, I guess, if that's how I'm going to word that. So yeah, anyway, clothing has to fit, and it has to, and it has to, and it has to, and it has to. I have a video for In The Image Clothing Company titled "Tops Need to Be Waisted." I don't know if that's exactly how it's worded, but meaning right where your hips hinge, that's where your tops should end. That's why I don't have the bottom buttons in my button-up shirts, because then I can hinge at my hips where my hips actually hinge, okay? I have a video for In The Image Clothing Company titled "How Sleeve Cuffs Affect Body Mechanics and How Pant Cuffs Affect Body Mechanics," discussing what I'm showing here, that clothing has to fit. And I go into depth in those, great depth of the anatomy. I discuss things that are nowhere near where the sleeve cuffs are that are getting affected. I discuss things that are nowhere near where the pant cuffs are that are getting affected, if those things are too long. So, universal truth, we have to have our clothing fit. It has to. There's no say that we can have. There's no saying, I know some people like that, but that's not me. I know that some people's bodies work that way, but mine does not. No, that's not something that you can have opinion on. We did not design our bodies. We do not get to tell them how to operate. And that is what is happening when we are putting clothing on them that is forcing them into a position they do not work in. We have to have clothing that fits. That does not mean you have to go be so financially whatever and spending money. That is not what I'm saying. We just have to do all that we can to have clothing that fits. I've been thinking so much about third world countries, not out of some kind of pity, out of they are so much more in touch, and there's so much that we can learn from them, you know. So anyway, very grateful for the position that I'm allowed to be in, being the founder of this company, and also just the information that I have been able to be given. I've discussed this many times within content for In The Image Clothing Company, is just the gratitude that I personally have for just my own knowledge of these things. If I never shared this stuff with others, me sharing things like this within these videos is only to help other humans. As of today's date, every video that I have made is entirely free, and I've made over 128 videos averaging a half hour in length, just discussing universal truths like this. I'm doing this, yes, this is going to launch a big company, and we're going to get, it's going to be a lot that we do, but I'm doing all this because I understand the severity of the effect of having things placed on a body. I mean, I've talked about this a little bit before, but if you take a dog and you put a dog in a harness, or you put a dog in little like boots, little shoes, you know, for whether it is to protect them from the snow or the heat of the asphalt or whatever it is, they don't know how to function when there's something placed on them that's external from their own being. Human beings are the same in a lot of ways when it comes to physical function as animals, and I relate us to animals in a lot of videos that I've made for In The Image Clothing Company. And when you see how, or even babies, like my video for In The Image Clothing Company titled "Toddlers Are the Natural Example," when babies come into this world, they don't want to be placed into weird clothing that's like forcing them to be kind of almost stuck in a position. But we just get kind of accustomed to it as we do it for so many years. But the dog example is really good because you put a little harness on a dog or a collar on a dog for like one of the first times, like a puppy, and they're just trying to get it off and trying to get it off and trying to get it off. Because if it's altering the way their body would naturally work, then that's all it's doing, period. And human beings are no different. So our clothing has to fit, it has to sit where I discussed it does for every human, just because otherwise it's altering the workings of the entire body. So yeah, clothing has to fit, and that's it. Just the gratitude that I could express for me starting to wear mediums rather than wearing larges, because if we're just talking about like tops, right? Because there's a lot of adjustment that my body has had to go through, but adjustment back to natural after being altered into a position ingraining a patterning. So that adjustment wouldn't have to happen and doesn't have to happen for our children as long as we start them into this world wearing clothing that just does fit, and not only fits but sits in the correct locations with no tags inside, and you know, all the things that we discuss in the Image Clothing Company, the universal truths that apply to every single human. So clothing has to fit. Yeah, that's it. This is going to be one of those reference videos coming back to this. That's what this will be titled, is something along the lines of clothing has to fit. I mean, it just has to. So, because you can be all fashionable all you want, thinking that that's the reason you're doing things, and there's no harm in it, because it's not, I don't have images on my clothing that's offending people, so why would it be wrong to wear oversized clothing? I know that I sound like I'm mocking and I'm not being accusatious, but I want people's bodies to work. The reason I'm like sounding like I'm mocking, and in a sense I just really am mocking that kind of wording, is because I'm looking out for your body. If you're the one trying to say that you can wear oversized clothing and you can do what you want, well, what you cannot do is breathe within oversized clothing. So yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, ideally we don't have any kind of item of clothing at all that does not work for us. I know there's been many times in my life where I've had a closet full of clothes, like 50, 60 shirts, and maybe like 4 or 5 of them were ones that I actually liked quite a bit and fit well. Well, what's the point of all the rest of the 40 to 50 that are in there then? You know, like, there is no point. It's pointless, literally pointless. So a personal experience. I'm not accusing. I've done this, right? So the point is, now I'm very, very minimal with the amount of things that I have, because I only have things that actually fit. Why else would you have something? Because that's another thing, is a lot of times when people go out somewhere, it's like, all right, what can I almost tolerate throughout this evening with people if I were to be wearing it? As in, most clothing that people do have is so uncomfortable, and they know it, but they still have it. I was the same way for a long time. We shouldn't have anything that does not work for our bodies, because that's the only point of clothing, is to cover us, to protect us from the elements, to keep us modest. And if it's oversized and if it's uncomfortable and we can't breathe within it, it's damaging to us to even own. And we have spent money on it and time and effort washing it. It's very strange behaviors that I've done, but it's strange no matter who's doing it. So that's why we have in the Image Clothing Company, clothing has to fit, it has to stay centered. Otherwise, it's a very similar thing to being oversized. It's just going to alter the body. So we show how to do that here. We discuss the body as it is, as it was before altered. So check us out. I've got a lot of emotion, a lot of passion behind this, because I know that there's a lot that's like important in this life, but really what this life is our bodies. So people try to say don't put so much emphasis on your body when there's other things to focus on. But the only way we focus on things is through the vessel that is our physical bodies in this life. So this is kind of where the focus has to be, without any kind of opinion. And it's just got to be allowed to work. Clothing has to fit. Period and done. Like I said, today's the 31st of October, 2024. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Please check us out if you would like to. I don't get anything from it, but you will. So please do. Universal truths is what we do discuss within our sinful natures. I'm not ever going to be able to relay anything perfectly, just because I'm not going to be perfect in this life, but we do discuss things that are unchanging, and we need to allow the human body to work. That's the point. Okay, so thank you. Check out the podcast, In the Image Clothing Company podcast. It's awesome. Okay, thank you.